Welcome back to Boss Economics World, the only show on the internet that dares to call out the economic dumpster fire your government keeps pouring gasoline on. I'm your host, the guy who's been screaming into the void about fiscal mismanagement since before it was cool. Grab your coffee, or your bourbon, depending on how bad your portfolio's looking, and let's dive into the latest economic circus. Donald Trump's global tariffs just got slapped down by a U.S. trade court, and oh boy, does this ruling peel back layers of economic incompetence like a rotten onion. Today, we're not just talking about one bad policy, we're exposing a systemic web of government mismanagement, political grandstanding, and economic illiteracy that's dragging us into a recession faster than you can say, trade deficit. From point to surface, we'll unpack the real issues behind this tariff fiasco, throw in some spicy data, and roast the government's role in turning a manageable economic challenge into a five-alarm fire. Buckle up, folks, this is Boss Economics World, and we're here to make economics sexy, savage, and oh so satisfying. On May 28, 2025, a panel of 3 judges at the U.S. Court of International Trade in Manhattan dropped a bombshell. The vast majority of Trump's global tariffs, those shiny, punitive levies he slapped on everything from Chinese fentanyl to Canadian lumber, were deemed illegal. That's right, folks, the court said, sorry, Don, you can't just invoke emergency powers like you're auditioning for a dictator role in a B-movie. The ruling sided with Democratic-led states and small businesses who argued that Trump's use of the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEEPA, to justify these tariffs was, in legal terms, a load of hogwash. Now, the White House has 10 days to effectuate the order, which is legalese for undo your mess. The tariffs in question include Trump's global flat tariff, his elevated rates on China, and his drug warrior tariffs on Canada and Mexico. Oh, and don't miss the stock market's reaction. Nasdaq 100 futures spiked 2.1% on the news, because apparently, Wall Street loves nothing more than a good old-fashioned tariff smackdown. The dollar strengthened, the yen tanked, and global markets are once again riding the Trump-induced roller coaster of chaos. But before you start popping champagne, let's zoom out and dissect this mess. This isn't just about tariffs, it's about a government that's weaponizing economic policy for political theater, tanking small businesses, jacking up consumer prices, and flirting with a recession while pretending it's all part of some 4D chess game. Let's break it down, layer by layer, from the root causes to the surface-level fallout, and roast the government's role in this economic horror show. At the heart of this fiasco is Trump's abuse of the IEEPA, a law designed to let presidents manage financial transactions during genuine national emergencies, like, actual crises, not, I don't like the trade deficit, tantrums. Trump invoked this law to justify his tariffs, claiming that the U.S. trade deficit and drug trafficking were national emergencies. Let's pause and appreciate the sheer audacity here. The man declared an emergency over trade deficits, which have been a feature of the U.S. economy since the 1970s, and drug trafficking, which, while serious, has zero direct connection to blanket tariffs on, say, Mexican avocados or Canadian steel. The judges saw through this nonsense faster than you can say, summary judgment. They ruled that Trump's tariffs weren't just bad policy, they were illegal, exceeding his authority under the IEEPA. The panel even called out the administration's argument that the tariffs were meant to pressure other countries into better trade deals. Translation, we're bullying our trading partners, and we think that's fine. Spoiler alert, it's not fine, and it's not legal. Now, let's get real, this isn't just a Trump problem. This is a systemic issue of governments overreaching into economic policy under the guise of emergencies. Remember when Biden tried to forgive student loans by invoking emergency powers? Same playbook, different team. The government loves to cry, crisis, to justify bad ideas, and we, the taxpayers, end up footing the bill. Let's talk numbers, because nothing exposes government incompetence like cold, hard data. Trump's tariffs were sold as a way to protect American jobs and fix trade deficits, but here's the reality, tariffs are a tax on American consumers and businesses, and they've been bleeding us dry. According to the American Action Forum, Trump's tariffs, before this ruling, were costing U.S. consumers and businesses an estimated $40 billion annually in higher prices and lost efficiency. That's right, folks, you were paying for Trump's trade war, not China. Take the fentanyl tariffs on China, Canada, and Mexico, for example. The court ruled these were illegal because they didn't even pretend to address drug trafficking, they were just blanket levies on entire economies. Meanwhile, the real cost of these tariffs was passed on to American consumers. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce estimated that Trump's tariffs on China alone raised costs for the average American household by $1,277 per year. Want to know why your grocery bill's gone up? Blame tariffs, not just inflation. And let's not forget small businesses, the backbone of the U.S. economy. The Liberty Justice Center, representing small businesses in the lawsuit, pointed out that these tariffs were crushing mom and pop shops. Imagine you're a small retailer importing goods, say, toys from China. Trump's tariffs jack up your costs by 25%, but you can't raise prices without losing customers to Amazon. What do? You either eat the loss or shut down. According to the National Federation of Independent Business, 1 in 4 small businesses reported significant negative impacts from tariffs in 2024. That's not winning, that's economic vandalism. Zoom out further, and the tariff saga becomes a case study in how government mismanagement can tank an economy. Let's connect the dots. Tariffs increase costs, which fuels inflation. Inflation erodes consumer purchasing power, which slows spending. Slow spending kills business revenue, which leads to layoffs. Layoffs shrink the tax base, which strains government budgets. And round we go, straight into recession territory. Don't believe me? Look at the data. The Federal Reserve Bank of New York's recession probability model, as of May 2025, puts the odds of a U.S. recession within the next 12 months at 58%, the highest since the 2008 financial crisis. Coincidence? Hardly. Trump's tariffs, combined with the Fed's aggressive rate hikes to combat tariff-induced inflation, are squeezing the economy like a python. And here's the kicker, the government's own numbers prove tariffs didn't even fix the trade deficit. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the U.S. trade deficit in goods was $1.1 trillion in 2024, higher than when Trump took office in 2017. So, we paid more for everything, killed jobs, and still didn't win the trade war. Congratulations, government, you played yourself. Now, let's talk about the real villain here, the government's obsession with political theater over sound economic policy. Trump's tariffs weren't about fixing the economy, they were about looking tough on the global stage. The White House's response to the court ruling says it all. Spokesman Kush Desai whined, "It is not for unelected judges to decide how to properly address a national emergency." Oh, really? Because it sure as heck isn't for a politician to decide what counts as an emergency, just to score points with his base. This isn't just a Trump problem, it's a government problem. Politicians on both sides love to meddle in the economy, whether it's tariffs, subsidies, or bailouts, all while ignoring the basic principles of free markets. Remember the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan under Biden? It overheated the economy, spiked inflation, and now we're paying the price. The government's job is to set clear rules and get out of the way, not to play economic dictator. So, what happens now? The Justice Department has already filed an appeal, and this case could end up at the Supreme Court, deciding the fate of trillions in global trade. If the tariffs stay dead, we might see a brief market rally, hence the Nasdaq's 2.1% jump, but don't get too excited. The damage is already done. Inflation is still raging, 6.2% year-over-year as of April 2025, per the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Small businesses are still struggling, and the recession risk is still climbing. For you, the ordinary viewer worried about financial development, this is a wake-up call. Your government's economic meddling is costing you money, jobs, and stability. And for you finance pros out there, it's time to hedge your portfolios against more government-induced chaos. Look at emerging markets. India's Nifty 50 is up 15% year-to-date as of May 2025, per Bloomberg, because they're not caught in this tariff quagmire. Here's the bottom line, folks, Trump's tariffs were a masterclass in economic incompetence, but the real blame lies with a government that prioritizes optics over outcomes. From misusing emergency powers to taxing its own citizens, this administration, and let's be fair, the ones before it, has turned economic policy into a clown show. And guess what? You're the one stuck with the bill. So, what can you do? Stay informed, stay angry, and stay tuned to Boss Economics World, where we'll keep calling out the government's economic disasters with the fire and fury they deserve. Until next time, keep your wallets close and your government closer, because someone's got to watch these clowns.